with it.
Oh, you're right. But there's two different things happening. Either people are getting more in a zombified, gray, blobular fashion, just little automatons that are programmable, or they're awakening. And those two things are happening. But I want to play you this clip because before we went on air here, I asked if you'd seen this. You said you'd read the transcript. This is from CNBC a few days ago. And it goes on for like 4.5 minutes where each guest agrees, yes, we're absolutely slaves. But then they go on, if you watch the full clip that's at NFOWARS.com, to say, but it's good that we're slaves because the Federal Reserve knows best. And I've seen this in The Economist. I've seen it in the Financial Times. All of them are like, yeah, technocrats run things now. You know, they appoint the leaders now, but they know best. So I thought I'd play this clip and ask you, why are they getting this naked? Because I've seen hundreds of articles the last few months, more than 30 in the last week, in prestigious so-called publications, finally not apologizing and saying, okay, Alex, you were right, world government run by megabanks. No, the answer is megabanks, you are their slave. They actually say, we are slaves, quote, we are absolutely slaves to the banks. And they've conquered us, and that's a good thing, Gerald. Here it is from CNBC.
Now, the question is, do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge? Jim Iorio, aren't we all just living and dying for what the central banks do? Aren't we all just counting on the fact that there's a Bernanke put and that we won't go any lower than, say, 5% down from here?
Of course we are, because if we look at the economic data, there's nothing to get excited about in that. We are absolutely slaves to central banks, because we'd love to be slaves of the economy, but the economic numbers continue to do nothing but trend low.
Yeah, and listen to what the Fed did this weekend. I think they really screwed up here. They said that we're going to do this Operation Twist through the end of the year. In other words, they're going to create uncertainty about what happens after Operation Twist, right at the same time that the fiscal cliff kicks in. Do we really want all
That's enough. And that's one guy that did criticize them. The others were saying, oh, don't blame the Fed. We need to be their slaves. Since when have we gotten to the point where Congress has told the UN and NATO run our military to their face and that we're slaves to foreign banks? How do we ever get there, Gerald?
Again, it was a takeover. They had laws in place, Alex. It was called the Robertson-Patman Act, the Sherman Antitrust Act, the Clayton Act. All of these acts were put in so the robber barons wouldn't steal everything from us. They were all put in place so America could be the greatest country in the world. They were all put in place why people all over the world wanted to come here to begin their beginning, to live their life and to create their dream. It's all been taken away from us. We've been Walmarted, we've been Targeted, we've been McDonald's and Burger King. Everything is controlled by Home Goods, by Home Depot, by Lowe's, by a few people. They used to be... People are too young. I was thinking about this, talking to the younger people on my staff. I said, you know, you guys don't remember the time when there were hardware stores everywhere. Right down the block over here, there was a stationery store. Right over there used to be a butcher. Right over there used to be not a chain of dry cleaners, but a dry cleaner.
Well, I was about to say, though, I remember growing up when the big box stores were just coming in, but I remember spending summers working on the farm and the ranch, and my grandma would take me down to the little town, but there were like 8 little dry goods stores, and she could go in and look at belts and hats and gear, and it was different prices and different qualities. There was more choices on that little country road than there are today at even a sporting goods store or a giant Sheplers or something. The truth is there was more choices back then. In a small town, you'd have 5 butchers right there. And people would learn who was the best, who had the best this, the best that. It gave all these little choices. You'd have... Go ahead.
No, you got it. It gave them all the little choices, and it gave them an income. It gave them the ability to reach their dream. It gave them an ability to live a solid middle-class life, or even an upper-middle-class life. You know, John Anthony West, who I work with, his parents had a clothing store, women's clothing store in White Plains, New York. He lived an upper-middle-class life. Now everything is Macy's. Everything has been taken over. I was telling you about my family. This is the picture on the wall. Look at the way these people are dressed. This is 1934. Look at the way they look. They worked in vegetable stores. They worked in fish stores, and they were butchers. They worked in the manufacturing sector. Remember that one? Alex, you don't need to be a genius to figure out what happened. We were sold out. We were sold out by Clinton. We were sold out by Reagan. We were sold out by Nixon. We were sold out by Carter. We were sold out by Bush. And we're being sold out by Obama. Every one of these presidents after Eisenhower began to sell our nation out. Nixon taking us off the gold
standard. And Eisenhower warned us about the military-industrial complex taking over. And now today, you turn on any ball game, it's nothing but troop worship, but it's not even worship of the troops. It's worship of them taking over. It's like living in a fascistic science fiction movie.
It is. Look, go back to our trend alert following when Henry Paulson, the former CEO of the Goldman Sachs gang, anointed U.S. Treasury Secretary under George W. Bush, began the whole TARP baloney. We had to bail out the banks. We sent out a trend alert. Washington has hijacked Wall Street. It's the same thing. It's a takeover. Fascism, by definition, is the merger of state and corporate powers. They use the military as enforcers for the political and financial crime bosses. That's all it is.
And as classic tyranny comes to us, we're supposed to just fall down and worship the troops aiming machine guns at us. It's unbelievable. Gerald Celente, we're going to put your website up on screen there for people to visit it. People can subscribe there, also sign up for the Trends Alerts. They can get your books as well. Tell us about your books. Tell us about the Trends Journal. Tell us about the work you're doing. I know there's a lot of fake websites out there claiming to be you. There's two URLs that really are you, so make sure and make that note for everybody. And then in 5 minutes, because I've been asking the question, other points that you think are important for people to know.
Well, first of all, the Trends Journal, I just want to mention a couple of things about it. Our staff is unparalleled. There's not a group of trend forecasters or free thinkers writing in trends than we have, whether it's Nomi Prinz, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, of course, John Anthony West, who, by the way, is famous for his work on the mystery of the Sphinx. It was a major NBC special with Charlton Heston narrating it a couple of years ago, proving that the Sphinx predates the Sahara Desert because of the watering, which brings it back to about 10,000 BC, not 2,500 BC. The importance of that is that civilization's a lot different than the way they're telling us.
Yeah, the history we've been told is not accurate.
Yeah. And then we have also Anthony Frieda, our illustrator, nationally award-winning illustrator, Ben Davis, one of the top science writers in the world. So it's really, you're going to find trend information and history before it happens like you won't find anywhere else. And as you well know, we're preparing people for what's ahead. So not only are we telling the history before it happens, we're giving you the opportunities of how to prepare and plan for what's ahead. And what's ahead is this. We're already in the first great war of the 21st century. Let's just add them up, Alex. Bahrain. Oh, they don't talk about that because the Fifth Fleet's there. It's riots virtually every day. Yemen, we're sending Predator drones in there as well. Saudi Arabia has actually invaded Bahrain, but they just call them protectorate troops. Then we're going into Syria. You see what's going on over there. A new government is moving into Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood, another Muslim government going into Morocco. Tunisia, the same thing. Riots, uprisings, and radicalization. And I'm not saying this is an anti-Muslim, that's the furthest thing from it. One of my good friends and partners in other businesses is Muslim. I'm not like that. What I'm saying is, and again, I wrote this back in Trends 2000 in 1995 and the Trends Journal in 1993, Crusades 2000. They're radicalizing the Muslim people because of American foreign policy. So we keep moving around the globe. Greece, wonderful situation there. severe depression only getting worse, plus put on top of that huge immigration problems, people that came in from Afghanistan, Iraq, all of those areas trying to escape the turmoil, Libya, Africa, they can't get out. Serious problems in Greece. Oh, Spain, the indignados, the people that are indignant, 50% plus unemployment rate among the youth, 25% unemployment rate generally, much higher actually. And then, of course, a severe economic decline, a real estate bust. Oh, let's move over to Italy. Same thing. By the way, everybody now hear this. If you want to see a model that's may be successful, watch what's going on in Italy. There's a new movement. They call it the Five-Star Movement. It's being run by a satirist, a brilliant one, Beppe Grillo. And this movement is now the #3 party in Italy. And it may be a model for displacing the two corrupt parties that are running most countries. It ain't democracy, folks, that we have. It's communism with just two isms, or fascism, I should say. It ain't communism, it's fascism with two parties running it. That's another overthrow government. Then we go over to the UK. They're in trouble. They're trying to juice the economy. They can't do it. Go over to Brazil. Their economy is now tanking. They're dumping stimulus in. They can't do it. Pick up the news. They're cooking the books in China. They cannot fix the economy if Europe, the #1 importer of Chinese goods, America, the #2 importer, isn't importing. China's not making. Yes, there are a lot of rich people in China, about 400 million, doing well and getting by pretty good. But guess what? They have a population of 1.2 million people, and the rest of them aren't doing well at all. Riots are bubbling up. Then go over to Australia. Hey, Aussies, hey, Chileans, hey, Bolivians. If China, Indonesia, Vietnam, they're not making stuff, Brazil, you guys ain't exporting. The entire global economic system is in collapse. The world is already at wars. There are civil wars. There are regional wars, and there's going to be a world war. Hey, remember Iran? Getting closer to the breaking point. So that's where we're headed.
Absolutely. And now we're getting reports of British troops in the north of Syria. Turkey says they'll attack them anytime they want. We've got the Russians. And again, I'm not saying they're angels, but the point is they are not aggressing. The West, run by bankers, America doesn't exist for all intents and purposes, are running missiles and troops and revolutionaries up all into Russia's borders, in the West, in the South, in the East. And Medvedev and Putin have said, we've rolled nukes into place. If you keep doing it, we're going to nuke you. I mean, I look back to the Cold War. The Russians didn't talk like that then. To have the Russians saying, if you try to destabilize us, we're going to nuke you. The State Department's trying to overthrow Putin right now. That's admitted. I mean, this is crazy. These bankers that make 40-to-1 bets with your money, like Don Corzine, they may end up causing World War III. These people are nuts.
Alex, the timeline is perfect. I've mentioned this before. The crash of 1929, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, world war. That's all it's about. The Panic of '08, the Great Depression, we're in it. Recession, depression, depends what country you go into. Currency wars, they're on.